The sprawling metropolis of Chronos City was a marvel of temporal engineering, its towering spires adorned with intricate clockwork and shimmering chronal conduits. Time itself, or at least its manipulation, was a commodity here, meticulously managed by the omnipotent Chronos Corporation. But even with their advanced temporal tech, a creeping unease had settled over the city. The Unraveling, a series of inexplicable temporal instabilities causing localized rewinds, glitches in memory, and fragmented whispers of erased events. Lyra, a quick-witted junior archivist for the Chronos Corporation, navigated the city's bustling, time-sensitive streets with a practiced ease, her dark, nimble fingers often tinkering with antique clockwork mechanisms in her sparse apartment. Her job involved sifting through fragmented historical data, cataloging anomalies, and trying to make sense of the increasingly chaotic timeline. She was sharp, observant, and possessed an uncanny knack for noticing discrepancies others missed. Her only real connection was her younger brother Finn, a brilliant but reckless temporal engineer apprentice. Lately, Finn had become obsessed with a dangerous theory, that the Unraveling wasn't a natural disaster but a deliberate act, a temporal anchor being forcibly moved, causing ripples throughout history. He'd been increasingly secretive, hinting at a hidden faction trying to rewrite Chronos City's past. One fateful evening while Lyra was working late, a surge of temporal feedback ripped through the archives. Finn, who had snuck in to examine a forbidden temporal artifact, a fractured chronal sphere pulsating with unstable energy, was caught in the blast. The sphere shattered, unleashing a wave of raw, uncontrolled temporal energy. Lyra, closer than any other, felt a searing pain, her mind tearing, as reality itself seemed to lurch. When she awoke, the archive was in chaos, but something was profoundly different. The world seemed both familiar and utterly alien. A translucent, ethereal interface pulsed before her eyes, glowing with a soft, ethereal light. Temporal anomaly detected. Initiating system link, Lyra. Identity confirmed, Lyra. Class acquired, Chrono-Shifter, nascent. Passive skill, Chronal Perception, level 1, can faintly perceive minor temporal fluctuations and echoes within a small radius. Active skill, Blink Rewind, level 1, rewind time by 1 second. Only mental memory is retained. Cost, 5 stamina, 5 focus. Cooldown, 1 mine. New construct schema. Unlocked, Memory Echo, basic. A rudimentary, mental construct, useful for storing brief snippets of chronological data. You have gained 5 temporal energy. You have gained 1 temporal fragment, minor. Lyra gasped, staring at the holographic text. Time, a system, Chrono-Shifter, the fractured chronal. Sphere now felt like a missing piece of a puzzle, waiting for her touch. Her nimble fingers, usually stained with ink, now tingled with an unseen power. She had always been a mender of fragmented histories. But now, the system promised a path to weave, to shift, and perhaps, to save. She knew what she had to do. Understand. The Unraveling and find Finn, who was now missing, presumed lost in the temporal feedback. Lyra stumbled away from the chaotic archive, the phantom pain of the temporal blast still lingering, overshadowed by the surreal presence of the glowing interface. Chrono-Shifter, nascent, flashed across her vision, a constant reminder of the impossible power now stirring within her. She was a time shifter, but one with a unique systemic guidance, fundamentally different from the Chronos Corporation's rigid temporal tech. Adventurer, Lyra, class. Chrono-Shifter, nascent. Health, 100-100 temporal energy, 5-5, regenerating +1 10 min. Focus, 100-100, regenerating +1 min. XP, 0-100, level 1. Temporal Fragments, 1, minor. Skills, Chronal Perception, level 1. Blink Rewind, level 1, construct. Schemas, Memory Echo, basic. Paradox, stability, 0-100, neutral. She knew she couldn't practice openly. The Chronos Corporation had strict protocols, and anyone exhibiting unsanctioned temporal abilities would be swiftly dealt with. She needed a discreet location, She found refuge in the forgotten, dilapidated sectors beneath Chronos City, a maze of disused utility conduits and crumbling infrastructure. Here, the residual temporal fragments from centuries of unchecked temporal experiments were denser, and the ambient chronal energy, though faint, was more accessible. She recalled the instructions for Blink Rewind, Level 1, and her first schema, Memory Echo, Basic. She took a deep breath, clearing her mind, and focused. She mentally reached out, following the faint glow of ambient temporal fragments, visualizing a single, shimmering strand of time pulling from the ether. Attempting to use Blink Rewind Level 1 to store Memory Echo Basic. Cost, 5 stamina, 5 focus. Success, time rewound by 1 second. Memory Echo Basic, created, storing 1 second of chronological data. You have gained 2 temporal energy. You have gained 2 XP. The world snapped back. A faint, shimmering, almost transparent mental construct, no larger than her thumb, materialized in her mind's eye. It pulsed with a gentle, inner light. It was tiny, delicate, barely perceptible, but it was real. She had performed her first loop and stored her first memory echo. She touched it mentally, feeling its ephemeral presence. It wouldn't move mountains, but it was a tangible manifestation of her burgeoning power, imbued with a whisper of pure time. She spent the next few hours practicing, pushing her newfound abilities. Each successful loop, though draining, rewarded her with a small surge of temporal energy and XP. Her initial failures were frustrating, but the system provided constant feedback, guiding her mental efforts. She also noticed a subtle shift in her paradox stability meter toward stability with each successful controlled loop. You have gained 100 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now level 2. Health increased by 10. Temporal energy increased by 5. Focus increased by 10. New passive skill, Chronal Perception, level 2. Can clearly perceive individual temporal fragments, their basic properties, stable, unstable, and faint echoes of past events. New active skill, Reclaim Temporal Energy, level 1. Attempt to reclaim latent energy from a dissolved memory echo or inert fragment. Success rate, low, 20%. Cost, 5 focus. Cooldown, 1 Menhir grants temporal energy and XP. New construct schema unlocked. Temporal Anchor, minor. A rudimentary mental construct, useful for stabilizing small temporal fluctuations or subtly marking a point in time. Level 2, new skills. Her temporal energy was now 1010. Chronal Perception, level 2, sharpened her senses, allowing her to discern individual temporal signatures and whether they were stable or tainted by the unraveling. And Reclaim Temporal Energy, level 1, she could recover her spent mental resources. She immediately tried Reclaim Temporal Energy, level 1, on one of her faded memory echoes. Attempting to use Reclaim Temporal Energy, level 1, on Memory Echo, faded. Cost, 5 focus. Success. You have reclaimed 5 temporal energy. You have gained 5 XP. It worked. She could now loop and reclaim, effectively sustaining her practice. She was no longer just a passive recipient of fragments. She was an active manipulator, a builder of temporal constructs. Her understanding of the system grew with each success. Lyra, the archivist, was beginning to weave the very fabric of time. Lyra, level 2 and now capable of sustainably practicing her temporal abilities, felt a burgeoning confidence. Her Reclaim Temporal Energy, level 1, allowed for endless experimentation, while Chronal Perception, level 2, unveiled the intricate details of the temporal energies around her. She began to see the city's hidden chronal landscape, the vibrant pulses of a stable timeline, the dull ache of an unraveled event, the agitated bursts from a temporal conflict, and the spreading corruption of the unraveling. Her focus now shifted to her new schema, Temporal Anchor, minor. She realized her powers weren't just about direct effects. They were about manipulating the unseen, attracting latent energies, and understanding the spreading corruption that was slowly claiming. Chronos City. Her tattered archivist notebook, usually filled with historical data, now contained abstract designs for temporal arrays. She chose a particularly glitch-prone chamber within the abandoned sectors, a place known for minor, localized unraveling events. She concentrated, attempting to forge the temporal anchor minor. Attempting to use Blink Rewind Level 1 to create temporal anchor minor. Cost 5 temporal energy, 5 focus. Success rate low, 15%. Success, you have forged a temporal anchor minor. You have gained 2 temporal energy. You have gained 2 XP. A small, shimmering orb of pure white light materialized, gently floating in the air. It pulsed softly, stabilizing the minor temporal distortions around it, and, more importantly, allowing her to pinpoint the faint, sickly greenish-black wisps of the unraveling clinging to the walls and floor. The Chronal Perception, Level 2, allowed him to see its extent, its slow, insidious creep. She spent hours refining this skill, layering multiple temporal anchor minor constructs. The effect grew more potent with each layer. She also noticed that the ambient temporal fragments, previously scattered and inert, were now faintly drawn to her anchor, becoming easier to perceive and potentially loop from. Temporal anchor minor has leveled up. Temporal anchor Level 2. A rudimentary construct useful for stabilizing minor temporal fluctuations or subtly marking a point in time. Range increased. Stability enhanced. Temporal energy cost 5. Cooldown 1 minute. The constructs themselves were leveling up, increasing their effectiveness. She continued, layering multiple Level 2 temporal anchors. The stabilizing effect intensified dramatically, causing the unraveling wisps to recoil. You have successfully layered 5 secs temporal anchor, Level 2, to create a Chronal Stabilizer Array, minor. New construct schema. Unlocked, Chronal Stabilizer. Array minor creates a temporary, more powerful temporal array that stabilizes minor unraveling contamination. Temporal energy cost 25. Cooldown 5 minute requires 5x temporal fragments, minor. You have gained 100 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now Level 3. Health increased by 15. Temporal energy increased by 10. Focus increased by 15. New. Passive skill, Chronal Perception, Level 3, can accurately perceive complex temporal fragments, their structural integrity, and detect potential temporal anchor points. Detects unstable fragments. New active skill, Momentary Disruption, Level 1, can telekinetically manipulate small, inert temporal fragments or memory echoes, useful for creating precise, localized temporal distortions or minor distractions. Temporal energy cost, 15, cooldown, 10 sec, Level 3. She had created her first Chronal Stabilizer Array and unlocked a telekinetic skill, Momentary Disruption, Level 1. Her Chronal Perception, Level 3, was now sharp enough to identify temporal anchor points, natural convergences of chronal energy in the environment that could amplify her constructs. It also explicitly detected unstable fragments, something that terrified her but also gave her hope for understanding Finn's disappearance. She tested her new array. The Chronal Stabilizer Array minor pulsed, causing the unraveling wisps to slowly recede and dissipate in its radius. A faint, stable, temporal fragment, minor, appeared where the unraveling had been, now cleansed. She could purify, just. As she was reveling in this new power, her Chronal Stabilizer Array picked up a sudden malevolent surge of energy. A patrol of Temporal Enforcers, Level 4, heavily armored Chronos Corporation security, equipped with basic anti-temporal tech moving through the lower levels. They were Chronos security, but clearly operating under corrupted orders. Enemy detected, Temporal Enforcer, Level 4, Health, 80-80. Threat level, low, Temporal Disruption Core active. Enemy detected, Temporal Enforcer, Level 4. Health, 80-80, Threat level, low. Temporal Disruption core active. The Enforcers were dangerous, animated by unstable fragments. She knew her basic attacks wouldn't be enough. She needed to disrupt them. She immediately activated Momentary Disruption, level 1, aiming it at the Enforcers just as they passed by her hidden chamber. She gathered inert ash and small, unstable fragments, launching them as a distraction. Attempting to use Momentary Disruption, level 1, on Temporal Enforcer, level 4, X2. Temporal energy cost, 15 temporal energy. Success. Enforcers affected. Minor temporal disorientation, movement disrupted, 3 sec. The Enforcers stumbled, their temporal gear sputtering, their internal systems momentarily breaking up. They exchanged confused mechanical movements, attributing the disturbance to a faulty mechanism or falling debris. They moved on. Lyra, the nascent Chrono-Shifter, had just subtly, invisibly, asserted her presence against Chronos City's corrupted guardians. She was no longer just perceiving the unraveling. She was actively fighting it, unseen. Her journal now held blueprints for a hidden war for time, starting with Finn. Lyra, level 3, and now a master of subtle temporal stabilization and environmental manipulation, felt Chronos City opening up to her in a terrifying new way. Her Chronal Stabilizer Array, minor, gave her hope against the unraveling and momentary disruption, level 1, allowed her to subtly interfere with her enemies. Her Chronal Perception, level 3, was rapidly enhancing, allowing her to not only detect temporal anchor points, but also to discern the subtle emotional echoes within. Powerful, unstable fragments. She was beginning to realize that these unstable fragments weren't just inert glitches, they were echoes of erased events, fragmented memories screaming for resolution. She realized her unique path wasn't just about forging static constructs. It was about dynamic interaction, understanding, stabilizing, and even reclaiming shattered timelines. Her notebook filled with complex diagrams of interconnected temporal threads. Her current focus was on understanding how to counter the direct effects of the unraveling on specific events, specifically Finn's disappearance. She theorized that by creating a purer, more stable temporal anchor around a key event, she could potentially retrieve crucial information about his whereabouts or even a message from him. She needed a pristine, powerful temporal fragment, something the Chronos Corporation hoarded. Her target, a secured data vault within the corporation's archives, containing epoch-grade temporal fragments, objects of immense stability and power, used only for the most critical of temporal recalibrations. The vault was guarded by Chrono-Sentinels, level 8, elite security personnel equipped with advanced anti-temporal gear. Their chronal signatures, as Lyra perceived, were disciplined, but dulled by decades of unquestioning service. Warning, hostile presence detected, faction, Chronos Corporation, threat level, moderate. Enemy unit, 1X, Chrono-Sentinel, level 8. Anti-temporal gear equipped. A level 8 target. Directly attacking the Sentinel was out of the question. She was too weak, and the vault was too secure. She needed to manipulate the situation, to weave a subtle distraction and retrieve a fragment. She positioned herself carefully near a hidden vent leading into the archive and began to work. She started by inscribing a memory echo level 2 near the Sentinel's post, then used her reclaim temporal energy level 1 to immediately draw power back from it, rapidly cycling it to build up a localized surge. Reclaim temporal energy. Level 1 has leveled up. Reclaim temporal energy, level 2, attempt to reclaim latent energy from a dissolved memory, echo or inert fragment. Success rate, medium, 40%. Cost, 4, focus. Cooldown, 45 sec. Grants increased temporal energy and her ability to sustain her temporal actions was growing. She then initiated a bold move. She would weave an illusory temporal distraction. She focused, drawing power from the environment and pushing it through her memory echo, level 2, shaping a single, urgent but fake temporal anomaly report. Temporal cascade detected in Sector Zeta 9. Attempting to use Blink Rewind level 1 to implant illusory temporal anomaly report, Sector Zeta 9. Required 3 Temporal Fragments, minor, 50 Temporal Energy, 40 Focus. Success rate, low, 25%, anti-temporal interference. Amplified by nearby ambient energy, 0.20%. Net, 45%. Success, illusory temporal anomaly report implanted. You have gained 200 XP. The Sentinel suddenly tensed, its comlink crackling with the false report. His eyes darted to his console, then back to the secure vault. A moment later, he pounded a furious command into his keyboard, speaking urgently into his comlink. Temporal cascade in Zeta 9, immediate response required. He dashed off, leaving the vault momentarily unguarded. The Sentinel, completely unaware of the external influence, was now her unwitting pawn. Lyra watched in silent awe as the Sentinel's panic-filled report rippled through the local network. She had not just perceived, she had manipulated. She quickly slipped into the vault. Her Chronal Perception, level 3, immediately detected a shimmering, epoch-grade temporal fragment, stable, pulsating with serene, untainted energy. It was a fragment of a stable, unblemished timeline, untouched by corruption. She knew this was what she needed to try and find Finn. She carefully secured it. Epoch-grade temporal fragment, stable, acquired, X1. You have gained 100 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now level 4. Health increased by 20 temporal. Energy increased by 15. Focus increased by 20. New passive skill, Temporal Efficiency, level 1. Reduces temporal energy and focus cost of temporal constructs by 5%. Increases temporal fragment drop rate by 5%. New active skill, Time Thread Weave, level 1. Weave a temporary ethereal time thread to subtly influence minor objects or briefly distract enemies. Duration, 5 sec. Temporal energy cost, 30. Cooldown, 15 sec to level 4. She had successfully influenced a Chronos Sentinel and acquired a crucial epic-grade temporal fragment, a feat that would have seemed impossible just days ago. Her new passive skill, Temporal Efficiency, level 1, meant she could cast more often and acquire more fragments. But Time Thread Weave, level 1? This was a true game changer. She could now create temporary temporal threads to subtly manipulate. Or distract. Lyra, the Chrono-Shifter, had gone from archiving fragments to subtly manipulating the corporation's elite. Her notebook, once a simple journal of observations, was now a nascent grimoire of a time weaver, filled with the complex threads of a hidden war she was now irrevocably a part of. The fate of Finn, and perhaps Chronos City itself, rested on her ability to weave a new future. Lyra, level 4, and now a nascent time weaver, clutched the epoch-grade temporal fragment stable, tightly. Its gentle, warm hum was a stark contrast to the chaotic temporal energies of Chronos City. Her temporal efficiency, level 1, allowed her to deploy constructs more frequently, and Time Thread Weave, level 1, gave her a powerful tool for subtle manipulation and misdirection. She was no longer just perceiving the temporal landscape. She was actively designing methods for stabilizing it and understanding the insidious unraveling that had claimed her brother Finn. Her focus now shifted from simple stabilization to a complex, multi-layered construct, a chronal resonance beacon capable of tracing Finn's temporal signature. She had the stable fragment, but she needed a precise conduit, a refined vessel to deliver its untainted essence into the fractured timeline. Her notebook, once abstract, now contained detailed schematics for temporal infusion and chronal stability. Her Chronal Perception, level 3, was crucial, allowing her to perceive the intricate network of unstable and stable fragments within the corporation. She spent days practicing, constantly looping and reclaiming temporal energy. Blink Rewind, level 1, has leveled up. Blink Rewind, level 2, rewind time by 1 to 3 seconds. Only mental memory is retained. Cost, 4 stamina, 4 focus. Cooldown, 45 seconds, can store uncommon fragments directly. Her base temporal looping skill was improving, making complex infusions more viable. She then attempted to create a refined conduit for the epoch-grade fragment. She focused on a small, empty chronal capacitor she had smuggled from the corporation's stores, intending to infuse it with a temporal resonance array. Attempting to create chronal resonance beacon, experimental, using multiple memory echo, level 2, and chronal stabilizer array, minor. Required, 5, temporal fragments, minor, 70, temporal energy, 60 focus. Success rate, medium, 50%, with Chronal Perception, level 3, and Temporal Efficiency, level 1. Success, new construct schema. Unlocked, Chronal Resonance Beacon. Minor, creates a temporary layered temporal construct that amplifies and projects a temporal signature. Temporal energy cost, 60. Cooldown, 8 Minir requires 8x temporal fragments, minor. You have gained 250 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now level 5. Health increased by 25. Temporal energy increased by 20. Focus increased by 25. New. Passive skill. Chronal Perception, level 4. Can accurately perceive highly complex temporal fragments, their interdependencies, and detect subtle temporal anchor fluctuations. Detects unstable time threads. New active skill. Temporal Whisper, level 1. Briefly soothe and stabilize a fragmented or mildly unstable temporal echo, temporarily reducing temporal distortion or emotional distress. Temporal energy cost, 35. Cooldown, 20 sec. Level 5, a significant leap. The Chronal Resonance Beacon, minor, was a crucial step towards finding Finn. Her Chronal Perception, level 4, was now sensitive enough to detect minute fluctuations in temporal anchor points and, more disturbingly, discern unstable time threads, tangible links of corruption spreading from infected fragments. And Temporal Whisper, level 1, gave her a crucial healing, stabilizing skill, allowing her to temporarily alleviate temporal disruptions. Her stability meter slowly ticked upwards. She carefully placed the epoch-grade temporal fragment, stable, into the newly forged Chronal Resonance Beacon, minor. The fragment pulsed, its pure light amplified by the beacon, radiating a soothing temporal resonance. This was it, the tracing tool for Finn. She activated the beacon, focusing on Finn's last known temporal signature, a memory she held dear. The beacon pulsed, emitting a faint, shimmering temporal thread that seemed to stretch into the fractured past. It led her not to Finn's current location, but to a series of temporal echoes, ghostly imprints of past events where Finn had been. The echoes were fragmented, like a broken video, but a pattern emerged. He was actively investigating something, being pursued, and repeatedly encountering symbols of a mysterious temporal organization. Temporal echo, Finn's signature, detected. Warning. Temporal anchor compromised. The Weavers. Temporal echo, Finn's signature, detected. They're trying to reset. Critical junction. Temporal echo, Finn's signature, detected. Lyra, the paradox. Remember the loops. You have gained 150 XP. The Weavers? Reset? Paradox? Finn was alive, caught in something far bigger than the Unraveling. He was warning her. Her small victory was just the beginning of a much larger war for the timeline of Chronos City. Lyra, level 5, had achieved a temporary connection to Finn's temporal echoes, but the fragmented messages solidified her resolve. She needed to understand the Weavers and their plan to reset the timeline. Her Chronal Resonance Beacon, minor, and Temporal Whisper, level 1, gave her the tools to protect, but not to fully understand the root cause of the Unraveling. Her Chronal Perception, level 4, now revealed not just fragments, but the insidious, unstable time threads that seemed to emanate from specific areas within Chronos City, hinting at a central source of temporal contagion. Her constant practice further refined her core skills. Reclaim Temporal Energy, level 2, has leveled up. Reclaim Temporal Energy, level 3. Attempt to reclaim latent energy from a dissolved. Memory echo or inert fragment. Success rate, high, 60%. Cost, 3, focus. Cooldown, 30 seconds. Grants significantly increased temporal energy and XP. More efficient energy recovery was vital for her increasingly complex and demanding operations. She was also acquiring temporal fragments, minor, at a much faster rate, and her stability meter slowly but steadily increased with each purification. Her observations, made through her extended chronal perception, revealed a disturbing truth. The unraveling was not a natural phenomenon. It was actively being manipulated and accelerated by a rogue faction, the Fate Weavers, a secret society that sought to impose their version of a perfect future by forcibly resetting or altering key historical events. Their symbol, a stylized clockwork loom, was appearing with alarming frequency in Finn's echoes. This deep dive into Chronos City's hidden temporal architecture led her to suspect a hidden temporal laboratory, a place where the Fate Weavers managed their unstable fragments and potentially researched time-resetting technology. Her Chronal Perception, level 4, detected a massive focus signature of highly unstable temporal fragments beneath the Chronos Corporation's old research wing, a place whispered to be the Forbidden Chronal Lab. She found a hidden sub-level, entrance heavily guarded and bristling with advanced anti-temporal countermeasures. She used her Momentary Disruption, level 1, to create localized temporal glitches, triggering false alarms, and her Time Thread Weave, level 1, to subtly redirect automated temporal displacement grids. She found a chamber containing a massive, pulsating temporal loom filled not with energy, but with swirling green-black unstable chronal mass. Around it were workbenches laden with instruments designed for time twisting, and a holographic display showing the spread of the Unraveling across Chronos City, a real-time map of their dark work. New passive skill, Temporal Architect, level 1. Can interpret complex temporal blueprints and environmental chronal schematics. Grants plus 110% efficiency for chronal array schemas. Can detect dormant chrono nodes. Temporal Architect, level 1. This was monumental. It directly boosted her chronal array schemas and allowed her to understand the very design language of Chronos City's temporal infrastructure, revealing how the Fate Weavers were manipulating the city's time flow. She also learned that the Unraveling was a sentient parasitic entity called the Chronal Parasite, capable of amplifying itself by infecting and consuming stable timelines. However, her entry triggered the chamber's final defense. A Fate Weaver. Master, level 10, a heavily augmented human temporal manipulator, radiating a powerful aura of temporal instability, trained to create and control the Unraveling. Warning, hostile presence detected. Faction, Fate Weavers. Threat level, high. Enemy unit, 1x. Fate Weaver Master, level 10. Temporal Manipulator, Chronal Corruptor, a level 10 enemy specifically. Designed to manipulate time and spread instability. Its essence, perceived by Lyra's Chronal Perception, level 4, was twisted, malicious, anti-stability. It was designed to exploit and amplify the Unraveling. Lyra knew she couldn't simply outtime manipulate him with raw power. The Master's aura made her stable constructs sluggish and vulnerable. She had to overload the Master's own unstable systems, target its tainted vulnerabilities. She needed to use her Momentary Disruption, level 1, creatively. She began by manifesting her Chronal Stabilizer Array, minor, as a psychological distraction, masking her movements. While the Master scanned the glowing array, Lyra used Momentary Disruption, level 1, to create localized temporal interference, then used Time Thread Weave, level 1, to subtly pull at the Master's connection to the swirling, unstable chronal mass in the temporal loom, drawing its attention. Time Thread Weave, level 1, activated. Master's attention diverted. Temporal energy cost, 30. The Master lunged at the source of the subtle manipulation. While it was engaged, Lyra used Temporal Whisper, level 1, to briefly soothe and stabilize a nearby extremely volatile, unstable fragment, Major, that the Master was using to power a defensive temporal ward. Temporal Whisper, Level 1, activated. Unstable Fragment Major, momentarily stabilized. Master's Temporal Ward flickers, 3 sec. The Master staggered, its unraveling infused temporal ward sputtering. Lyra, seizing the moment, focused all her intent, drawing a concentrated memory echo, Level 2, and pushing it with pure mental force into the overloaded ward. This wasn't a standard attack, it was a targeted overload with stable essence against instability, attempting to forge Memory Echo, Level 2, into Fate Weaver Master, Level 10's overloaded temporal ward. Required 3 Temporal Fragments, Minor, 50 Temporal Energy, 40 Focus. Critical success. Temporal ward shattered, Master incapacitated. The Master collapsed, unconscious, its formidable unstable aura dissolving. Lyra, breathless and drained, had defeated a Level 10 temporal manipulator by turning its own corrupted power against it with stable time. Fate Weaver Master, Level 10, defeated. You have gained 600 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now Level 6, health increased by 30, temporal energy increased by 20, focus increased by 25. New passive skill, Temporal Efficiency, Level 2. Reduces temporal energy and focus cost of temporal constructs by 10%. Increases temporal fragment drop rate by 10%. New active skill, Chronal Pulse, Level 1. Forge a concentrated burst of stable temporal energy at a single target. Damage, medium. Temporal energy cost, 40. Cooldown, 15 sec. Level 6. Her temporal efficiency was improving, and Chronal Pulse, Level 1, gave her a powerful direct damage temporal attack. She also gained 5 temporal fragments, unstable, from the Master's fragmented core, and her stability meter increased significantly. She stood before the holographic map of Chronos City's Unraveling network, not as a mere archivist, but as a true architect of time, able to see and influence the very temporal foundations of the city. The city's hidden temporal depths were now open to her gaze. Lyra, Level 6, and now equipped with the direct offensive power of Chronal Pulse, Level 1, and an advanced Temporal Architect, Level 1 passive, felt Chronos City's temporal undercurrents with unprecedented clarity. The holographic map in the Forbidden Chronal Lab revealed the city's vast undercurrent network, a sprawling network of forgotten temporal conduits, dormant chrononodes, and vast reservoirs of raw temporal energy. Her Chronal Perception, Level 4, hummed with excitement, detecting powerful temporal anchor points deep within these forgotten depths. This was where the city's true temporal power originated, and where the Chronal Parasite might be most vulnerable. Her new offensive skill, Chronal Pulse, Level 1, was proving invaluable for focused damage. Chronal Pulse, Level 1 has leveled up. Chronal Pulse, Level 2, forge a concentrated burst of stable temporal energy at a single target. Damage, high. Temporal energy cost, 45. Cooldown, 12 sec. Can apply minor temporal fatigue, 3% chance to reduce enemy focus, Geacher stamina. The chance to reduce enemy mental resources was a significant tactical advantage against corrupted temporal foes. Her stability meter continued its steady climb, now past the halfway point. She began exploring the Undercurrent Network, a dangerous labyrinth of crumbling temporal infrastructure and insidious chronal parasite corruption. Her goal was to reactivate some of the dormant chrononodes, potentially enhancing Chronos City's temporal defenses or even unlocking new construct schemas. She encountered a patrol of timeline aberrations, Level 12, swift, cunning humanoids twisted by the Chronal Parasite, wielding chaotic temporal attacks and capable of spreading mental contagion. Warning: hostile presence detected. Faction: Chronal Parasite. Threat level: high. Enemy units: 3x. Timeline aberration, Level 12. Corrupted temporal displacements. 3. Level 12 enemies, specifically designed to counter stable time users and spread instability. This was a grave threat. Lyra needed to control the temporal battlefield, isolate them, and hit hard. She started by setting up a trap. She inscribed a Chronal Stabilizer Array, minor, in a narrow conduit, then used her Momentary Disruption, level 1, to hurl unstable fragments to draw the Aberrations' attention. As the Aberrations passed, she triggered the array's stabilizing burst. Chronal Stabilizer Array, minor, activated. Aberrations are affected by temporal disorientation, 2 sec. The Aberrations stumbled, their corrupted thoughts a jumble. While they were clustered, Lyra quickly inscribed her Memory Echo, level 2, on a nearby wall, augmenting her perception of their weakened mental state, and immediately followed up with Time Thread Weave, level 1, to create a shimmering, ethereal distraction, drawing their attention. Memory Echo, level 2, manifested. Temporal Energy Cost, 4. Time Thread Weave, level 1, activated. Aberrations' attention diverted. Temporal Energy Cost, 30. The Aberrations attacked the illusion, their chaotic temporal blasts damaging the ethereal thread. She then focused her offense, launching multiple Chronal Pulse level 2 attacks at the most damaged aberration, aiming for direct temporal fatigue. Chronal Pulse level 2 strikes aberration, 1. Damage, high 80. Temporal fatigue applied. 5 focus drained. Aberration, 1. Defeated. She continued her strategic assault, using Momentary Disruption, level 1, to keep the remaining aberrations disoriented and focused on her illusions, while relentlessly firing Chronal Pulse, level I. Though her temporal efficiency, level 2, kept her temporal energy somewhat stable, but it was a grueling fight. Finally, the last aberration fell, its corrupted mind dissolving into harmless temporal ash, leaving behind several temporal fragments unstable, which Lyra carefully reclaimed for later stabilization. Timeline Aberration, level 12, defeated, X3. You have gained 1000 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now level 7. Health increased by 35. Temporal energy increased by 25. Focus increased by 30. New passive skill, Temporal Architect, level 2. Can interpret advanced temporal blueprints and complex environmental chronal schematics. Grants plus 115% efficiency for chronal array schemas. Can detect unstable temporal fragments. New active skill, Temporal Stasis, level 1. Weave a temporary time thread to briefly halt an enemy's actions or cause them to flee in confusion. Duration, 5 sec. Temporal energy cost, 50. Cooldown, 25 second. Level 7, a hard-won victory. Her Temporal Architect, level 2, was now powerful enough to detect unstable temporal fragments, the very remnants of the Chronal Parasite within the network, even within living beings. And Temporal Stasis, level 1, gave her a powerful crowd control ability, allowing her to briefly pacify or frighten enemies, creating openings. She was no longer just building temporal constructs. She was building entire zones of chronological control within the Undercurrent Network. The Chrono-Shifter was expanding her territory, one activated node at a time. Her stability meter nudged even higher, now indicating stable aligned. Lyra, level 7 and now equipped with the powerful Temporal Stasis, level 1, and an advanced Temporal Architect, level 2, was rapidly transforming the Undercurrent Network. Her ability to detect unstable temporal fragments was leading her to key nodes infected by the Chronal Parasite, and her understanding of ancient temporal blueprints grew with each purification. She was not merely an archivist. She was becoming the living embodiment of Chronos City's temporal defenses, integrating herself into its very time fabric. Her stability alignment was now significantly stable. Her next target was a massive, ancient chrono node deep beneath the oldest district, a place her Temporal Architect, level 2, identified as the Crucible of Time, the central hub for many of Chronos City's primary temporal arrays. Activating it could bolster the city's temporal defenses exponentially and potentially reveal the true location of the Chronal Parasite Prime. However, the Crucible was guarded by a unique Chronal Parasite Fragment, level 15, a gargantuan, sentient entity formed from pure, unstable temporal energy, specifically designed to prevent the Crucible's activation. Its presence exuded an oppressive aura that severely hampered any stable temporal construct in its vicinity. Warning: hostile presence detected. Faction: Chronal Parasite. Threat level: critical. Enemy unit: 1x. Chronal Parasite Fragment. Level: 15. Temporal Nullifier. A level 15 foe capable of nullifying her very abilities. This was the ultimate test. Lyra knew direct confrontation was suicide. She needed to overcome the nullification field, activate the crucible, and then use the newly awakened power against the parasite fragment. Her temporal efficiency, level 2, and chronal perception, level 4, would be pushed to their absolute limits. She needed to be incredibly precise and quick. She began by trying to bypass the parasite fragment's nullification. She used Momentary Disruption, level 1, on a nearby support pillar, detonating a small cluster of unstable fragments to create a distraction, drawing the fragment's attention. While it was engaged, she inscribed multiple memory echoes, level 2, around it in a tight circle, focusing on creating a localized zone of stable temporal energy. Attempting to forge memory echoes, level 2, within Chronal Parasite Fragment. Level 15, Nullification Field. Success rate, very low, 10%. Success. 3x, Memory Echoes, level 2, forged. It was incredibly difficult, each echo requiring intense focus to punch through the nullification. She knew she couldn't sustain this. She then activated Temporal Stasis, level 1, within this circle, attempting to momentarily halt the fragment's hostile intent, hoping to disrupt its nullification field. Temporal Stasis, level 1, activated. Within nullification field, temporal energy cost, 50. Success rate, low, 20%. Success, Chronal Parasite Fragment, level 15, is hesitant, reduced nullification and damage, for 5 sec. The parasite fragment shrieked, its nullification aura flickering, momentarily weakened. This was her window. She raced towards the massive, dormant crucible of time, its core pulsating faintly. She poured all her remaining temporal energy and temporal fragments, minor, into its activation sequence, a complex array of temporal threads that her Temporal Architect, level 2, now clearly understood. Attempting to activate Crucible of Time, core. Required 10 temporal fragments, minor, all remaining temporal energy, 70, all remaining focus, 100. Success, Crucible of Time, core, activated, global temporal resonance effect initiated, your time-based skills are empowered, all forged. Constructs gain plus 150% duration, damage, defense. You have gained 1500 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now level 8. Health increased by 40. Temporal energy increased by 30. Focus increased by 35. New passive skill, Temporal Architect. Level 3. Can fully interpret ancient temporal blueprints and complex environmental chronal schematics. Grants plus 20% efficiency for chronal array schemas. Can activate environmental time traps. New active skill, Temporal Shield, level 1. Forge a temporary, self-sustaining temporal shield that absorbs incoming temporal or physical damage. Duration, 15 sec. Temporal energy cost, 70. Cooldown, 45 sec, level 8. The Undercurrent Network rumbled as the crucible of time flared to life, sending waves of stable temporal energy through the ancient conduits. All of Lyra's currently forged constructs glowed brighter, their effects amplified by the new global temporal resonance. The Chronal Parasite Fragment shrieked, its weakened nullification field collapsing under the sudden surge of ancient, stable temporal power. Lyra, now empowered, activated Temporal Shield level 1 around herself, creating a powerful temporary shield. She then used her Time Thread Weave, level 1, to create multiple ephemeral distractions, overwhelming the fragment senses. She then used her amplified Chronal Pulse, level 2, to relentlessly pummel the weakened fragment. The parasite fragment, no longer able to nullify stable time and caught in a barrage of temporal attacks, withered and imploded, its unstable form unable to withstand the unleashed power of the crucible. Chronal Parasite Fragment, Level 15. Defeated. You have gained 1000 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now level 9. Health increased by 45. Temporal energy increased by 30. Focus increased by 35. New passive skill. Temporal Efficiency, Level 3. Reduces temporal energy and focus cost of temporal constructs by 15%. Increases temporal fragment drop rate by 15%. New active skill. Temporal Flow, Level 1. Temporarily channel a burst of ambient temporal energy to restore temporal energy. Temporal energy restored, moderate. Cooldown, 60 sec. Level 9. She had conquered the Crucible of Time, defeated a level 15 temporal nullifier, and unlocked 2 powerful new skills. Temporal Architect, Level 3, which allowed her to activate environmental time traps. Ancient, dormant temporal defenses within the city itself, and Temporal Flow, Level 1, for crucial temporal energy restoration. Her stability meter was now near zenith. Lyra stood triumphant, the Undercurrent Network now humming with reactivated power. She was not just an archivist, she was the very conduit for Chronos City's ancient, dormant temporal might, ready to reshape the city's destiny and prepare for a direct confrontation with the Chronal Parasite Prime itself. Lyra, Level 9 and now an undisputed master of temporal architecture, commanded the reactivated Undercurrent Network with growing confidence. The Crucible of Time pulsed with power, feeding directly into her abilities. Her Temporal Architect, Level 3, allowed her to not only detect but also activate environmental time traps, ancient, dormant temporal defenses woven into the very time fabric of Chronos City. Her Temporal Flow Level 1 provided a crucial lifeline for temporal energy regeneration in intense battles, and her stability meter was now zenith. Her progress led her deeper into the Crucible, into a sub-chamber that Chronal Perception, Level 4, identified as the core timeline repository. Here, etched into crystalline chronal conduits, were holographic projections of the first architect, the legendary founder of Chronos City's original temporal network, and his personal journals, revealing the true history of the city's temporal origins and the genesis of the Chronal Parasite. The first architect, a brilliant but ambitious figure named Elias, had sought to create a city of interconnected timelines, drawing vast amounts of temporal energy to uplift humanity and achieve true temporal immortality. His ambition, however, had attracted something ancient and malevolent from beyond the temporal veil, the Chronal Parasite Prime, a parasitic consciousness that latched onto his vast temporal network, twisting its power and transforming it into a conduit for temporal corruption. Chronos City's temporal network, meant to unite, had become the very arteries of the parasite's influence, fueling the unraveling. New passive skill. Architect's Legacy, Level 1. Gain increased understanding and efficiency when interacting with Chronos City's ancient temporal architecture. Your temporal architect abilities are globally amplified. Architect's Legacy, Level 1. This fused her further with the city's temporal power, essentially making Chronos City's entire temporal network an extension of her will. She could now truly feel the city's collective timeline, its pulse, its weaknesses, its corrupted heart. She also discovered an ancient schema, the Timeline Severance Weave, a design capable of severing the parasite's connection to Chronos City's primary temporal arrays, but at immense personal risk. However, the core timeline repository was guarded by a spectral manifestation, the Echo of Elias, Level 18, a tormented projection of the first architect himself, trapped by his own corrupted legacy, designed to prevent anyone from tampering with the crucible. Warning: hostile presence detected. Faction: fragmented legacy. Threat level: extreme. Enemy unit: 1x. Echo of Elias, level 18. Master Time Weaver, Temporal Energy Drainer. A level 18 foe, capable of both powerful time weaving and temporal energy absorption. This was a battle of architects, a clash with her own temporal predecessor. Lyra knew she couldn't simply overpower him. She needed to outwit him, using the very systems Elias created. She began by trying to overwhelm him with environmental control. She activated a nearby environmental time trap that Temporal Architect, level 3, showed her, a massive, temporal rending web hidden in the conduits. Environmental time trap, temporal rending web activated. Temporal energy cost, 80. Echo of Elias, level 18, is stunned, 5 sec. The Echo shrieked, its projection flickering, overwhelmed by chaotic temporal feedback. While he was held, Lyra immediately unleashed several Chronal Pulse level 2 attacks, focusing her temporal fatigue chance. She then activated Temporal Flow, level 1, to quickly regain temporal energy for her next move. Temporal Flow, level 1, activated. Temporal energy restored, 50. Temporal energy cost, 60. Net cost, 10 temporal energy. The Echo broke free, enraged, retaliating with a devastating temporal siphon thread that drained Lyra's temporal energy. But Lyra was prepared. She used Time Thread Weave, level 1, to create a momentary temporal barrier, soaking the damage and distracting the Echo. She then, with immense effort, began to weave the Timeline Severance Weave onto a section of the Crucible itself, a massive glowing construct that required absolute focus and vast amounts of temporal energy. She used her Temporal Stasis, level 1, to briefly halt the Echo, creating a window for her to channel the weave. Attempting to weave. Timeline Severance Weave Legendary onto Crucible of Time, Core. Required. All remaining Temporal Fragments, Minor, 15. 150 Temporal Energy, 100 Focus. Weaving time, 10 sec. The Echo saw her intent and shrieked, attacking with renewed fury. Lyra used her remaining temporal energy for defensive constructs, creating a quickly forged temporal shield level 1, hoping to buy precious seconds. Finally, the Timeline Severance Weave flared into existence. Timeline Severance Weave, legendary, woven, crucible connection to Chronal Parasite severed. Echo of Elias, level 18, becomes disconnected, perpetual. You have gained 2000 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now level 10. Health increased by 50. Temporal energy increased by 35. Focus increased by 40. New passive skill. Architect's Legacy, level 2. Your Temporal Architect and Temporal T efficiency are significantly amplified when interacting with Chronos City's core temporal arrays. Unlocks Chronos Heartbeat. New active skill, Grand Chrono Schema, level 1. Manifest a large-scale temporary temporal blueprint of an area, highlighting optimal construct placement and temporal vulnerabilities. Duration, 30 seconds temporal. Energy cost, 100. Cooldown, 90 seconds level 10. The Echo of Elias dissipated, its form untethered from the parasite's influence. She had severed the Chronal Parasite Prime's connection to Chronos City's primary temporal system. Her Architect's Legacy, level 2, was a powerful passive, and Grand Chrono Schema, level 1, was an ultimate tactical tool, allowing her to literally see the perfect temporal architecture for battle. She also gained the Chronos Heartbeat state, feeling the entire city's collective timeline as her own. She was now truly the Chrono-Shifter, ready to confront the ultimate source of the Unraveling. Lyra, level 10, and wielding the formidable Grand Chrono Schema, level 1 skill, had effectively cauterized Chronos City's temporal wound, severing the Chronal Parasite Prime's direct connection to the city's main temporal arrays. The city's collective timeline, though still scarred by the Unraveling, no longer served as the parasite's primary conduit. Her Architect's Legacy, level 2, meant that she now felt Chronos' heartbeat, a deep, almost temporal connection to the city's pure temporal energy. Her Grand Chrono Schema Level 1 was a marvel. When activated, it overlaid her vision with a glowing, holographic schematic of her surroundings, highlighting temporal anchor points, optimal defensive positions, and even predicting enemy temporal patterns based on local time currents. It was the ultimate tactical advantage. Her next objective was clear: locate and confront the Chronal Parasite Prime itself. Her Chronal Perception, Level 4, and Temporal Architect, Level 3, guided her to the deepest, most corrupted section of the Undercurrent Network, a place called the Parasite's Maw, an ancient temporal nexus now utterly consumed by the parasitic consciousness. It was the heart of the Unraveling. The Maw was protected by elite temporal distortion conduits, Level 20, living beings horrifically twisted by the Chronal Parasite, becoming extensions of its will, capable of powerful, chaotic temporal attacks and spreading rapid temporal contagion. Warning: hostile presence detected. Faction: Chronal Parasite Prime. Threat level: critical. Enemy units: 2x. Temporal distortion. Conduit: Level 20. Corrupted temporal aberrations. Level 20. These were the most dangerous foes she had faced yet. Their temporal attacks were raw, chaotic, and relentlessly infectious. She knew her previous tactics of simple shields wouldn't hold against them. She needed a more robust defense and a decisive offense, tailored for the ultimate temporal conflict. She activated Grand Chrono Schema, Level 1, as she entered the cavernous core of the Parasite's Maw. The temporal world shimmered, revealing the Parasite Prime's intricate energy pathways, its weak points, and the optimal locations for ancient, dormant, environmental time traps in the temporal ether and the conduit's predicted attack patterns. She set her trap. She used Temporal Architect Level 3 to activate a series of environmental time traps in the temporal space, massive time prison weave that would generate localized temporal barriers. Environmental time traps, time prison weave activated. Temporal energy cost 160, reduced by temporal efficiency. Traps prepared for deployment. The conduits manifested. Lyra waited until they were precisely within the activated traps, then triggered them. Time prison weave deployed. Both temporal distortion conduit, Level 20, are trapped, immobilized, and taking heavy temporal feedback for 5 sec. The conduits were slammed into temporal prisons, their chaotic temporal blasts fizzling, their minds groaning under immense pressure. While they were immobilized, Lyra unleashed her full offensive might. She rapidly forged and fired multiple Chronal Pulse Level 2 attacks, focusing on the temporal fatigue effect. Chronal Pulse Level 2 strikes conduit 1. Damage: high, 90. Temporal fatigue applied, 10. Focus stamina drained. Temporal Flow Level 1 activated. Temporal energy restored, 50. Temporal energy. Cost 60. Net cost 10 temporal energy. She repeated this, draining their temporal resources, crippling their ability to cast, and constantly replenishing her own.
She then forged a Temporal Stasis, Level 1, with the Hesitate debuff directly on top of them, further reducing their resistance. As the time prison weave faded, the conduit struggled to rise, severely weakened and low on temporal energy.
Lyra then activated her newly forged Temporal Shield Level 1 around herself, providing robust defense, and continued to bombard them with Chronal Pulse Level 2. She also created multiple ephemeral distractions with Time Thread Weave Level 1 to draw their last desperate attacks away from her. Finally, one conduit collapsed, its twisted form dissolving into harmless temporal ash. The other, desperate, tried to flee, but Lyra used Momentary Disruption Level 1 to keep it disoriented and within range of her relentless chronal pulses. The second conduit soon followed. Temporal Distortion Conduit Level 20. Defeated, Exa2. You have gained 3000 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now level 11. Health increased by 55. Temporal energy increased by 40. Focus increased by 45. New passive skill. Architect's Legacy, Level 3. Your temporal architect and temporal efficiency are vastly amplified when interacting with Chrono City's core temporal arrays. Unlocks Parasite-Purge Chrono Schemas. New active skill, Temporal Realm Shift, Level 1. Forge a powerful temporary temporal field that warps local perception and temporarily disrupts the connection of blighted entities to the temporal plane. Duration, 15 seconds. Temporal energy cost, 120. Cooldown, 60 sec. Level 11. She had defeated 2 level 20 foes. Her Architect's Legacy Level 3 was at its peak, unlocking Parasite-Purge Chrono Schemas, the ultimate counter to the Chronal Parasite Prime. And Temporal Realm Shift, Level 1, was an incredibly powerful new skill, capable of disrupting blighted temporal phenomena and temporarily banishing corrupted entities from the temporal plane. She stood at the threshold of the Chronal Parasite Prime, ready to dismantle its malevolent consciousness. Lyra, Level 11 and a true master of temporal architecture, stood before the Chronal Parasite Prime, the pulsating, monstrous heart of the temporal corruption that had plagued Chrono City for decades, if not centuries. Her Architect's Legacy. Level 3 hummed, granting her access to the crucial Parasite-Purge Chrono Schemas, the final tools needed to cleanse the parasite's influence. Her Temporal Realm Shift Level 1 was a testament to her power, capable of tearing holes in blighted temporal reality. The Parasite Prime itself was a vast, amorphous consciousness, a malevolent temporal entity feeding off the fear and despair it had sown. It radiated an oppressive temporal aura that suppressed all stable temporal constructs and filled the air with maddening whispers and terrifying illusions. Its sheer malevolence was palpable. Warning: hostile presence detected. Faction: Chronal. Parasite Prime. Threat level: apocalyptic. Enemy unit: 1x. Chronal Parasite Prime. Level: primordial temporal entity. Indestructible by conventional means. Level: indestructible by conventional means. Lyra knew this wasn't a fight she could win by simply blasting it. She needed to use the Parasite-Purge Chrono Schemas to weave a counter-architecture that would systematically dismantle the Parasite Prime. This was the ultimate temporal architectural challenge. The Parasite Prime immediately responded to her presence, manifesting several temporal shredder tentacles, level 25, massive whipping appendages of pure temporal energy, each capable of tearing at the fabric of sanity and siphoning temporal energy. Temporal Shredder Tentacle, level 25, manifested. X4. 4 level 25 entities. Lyra immediately activated Grand Chrono Schema, level 1. The temporal world shimmered, revealing the Parasite Prime's intricate energy pathways, its weak points, and the optimal locations for the Parasite-Purge Chrono Schemas, a series of complex constructs that needed to be woven on specific temporal anchors around the core, forming a containment and purification array. She began by prioritizing defense and containment. She forged her Temporal Realm Shift Level 1 near the Parasite Prime, forcing the temporal shredder tentacles to fully manifest, preventing them from phasing in and out of the temporal plane. Temporal Realm Shift Level 1 forged. Temporal Shredder. Tentacles are now fully manifest and grounded. While the shift held them, she used Temporal Architect Level 3 to quickly activate a large environmental time trap, a series of temporal dissolution webs woven into the temporal ether, designed to sap the tendril's energy. Environmental. Time trap. Temporal dissolution webs activated. All temporal shredder tentacles are temporal energy drained, 30 temporal energy sec, and slowed. The tendrils thrashed, weakened, and slowed. This bought her precious time. She then raced to the first optimal point identified by her Grand Chrono Schema and began to weave the first Parasite-Purge Chrono Schema, the Aegis of Chronal Clarity, Part 1. It was an immense, complex construct, requiring all her focus and temporal energy. Attempting to weave Parasite-Purge Chrono Schema, Aegis of Chronal Clarity, Part 1, Required 20. Temporal Fragments, Unstable Minor. 180. Temporal Energy, 150 Focus. Weaving Time, 15 sec. The Temporal Shredder tentacles focused their attacks on her, sensing her critical action. She forged a quick Temporal Shield, level T. 1 to shield herself, drawing on Temporal Flow, level 1, to keep her temporal energy flowing as she continued the weaving. Each hit from the tendrils chipped away at her temporary defense, but her temporal efficiency, level 3, and Architect's Legacy, level 3, allowed her to channel energy with unprecedented speed. Finally, the first schema flared to life, a powerful, golden-white construct pulsing on the temporal anchor. It resonated with the temporal realm shift and began to purify a small section of the Parasite Prime, causing it to shriek in temporal agony. Parasite-Purge Chrono Schema, Aegis of Chronal Clarity, Part 1, successfully woven. Chronal Parasite Prime, level, takes minor purifying damage, local temporal suppression initiated. Lyra, utterly drained, staggered back. 1 down, several more to go. She needed to repeat this process, strategically placing and activating the remaining Parasite-Purge Chrono Schemas to contain and ultimately dismantle the Chronal Parasite Prime. This was the ultimate battle of temporal architecture against temporal corruption. Lyra, level 11, was now fully immersed in the epic struggle against the Chronal Parasite Prime. She had successfully woven the first Parasite-Purge Chrono Schema, Aegis of Chronal Clarity, Part 1, but the Parasite Prime was fighting back with desperate fury. More Temporal Shredder tentacles, level 25, manifested, their attacks relentless. The entire temporal chamber writhed with corrupted temporal energy, attempting to disrupt her every weave. Her Grand Chrono Schema, level 1, was her lifeline, continually updating with the Parasite Prime's weaknesses and the optimal placement for the remaining Parasite-Purge Chrono Schemas. She knew she needed to activate a series of 3 more schemas: the Temporal Resonance Disruptor, Part 2, the Chronal Energy Siphon, Part 3, and finally, the Timeline Dissolution Array, Part 4. She used her remaining temporal energy to activate an environmental time trap identified by Temporal Architect, Level 3, a localized temporal vortex weave that would draw in and temporarily disable the closest temporal shredder tentacle. Environmental time trap. Temporal vortex weave activated. Temporal shredder tentacle 1 is consumed, 10 sec. This bought her precious seconds. She raced to the next optimal point and began weaving the Temporal Resonance Disruptor, Part 2. This schema was designed to destabilize the Parasite Prime's internal temporal resonance, making it vulnerable. Attempting to weave Parasite-Purge Chrono Schema, Temporal Resonance Disruptor, Part 2. Required 25, Temporal Fragments, Unstable, Minor, 200 Temporal Energy, 180 Focus, Weaving Time, 20 sec. She fought off the remaining tentacles with Chronal Pulse, Level 2, and strategically placed Chronal Resonance Beacons, Minor, using Time Thread Weave, Level 1, to move them into defensive positions. She also activated Temporal Shield, Level 1, to provide robust defense, drawing on Temporal Flow, Level 1, to keep her temporal energy from emptying. The sheer scale of the Parasite Prime's malevolence was immense. Finally, the second schema flared to life, sending crackling waves of anti-parasite energy into the Parasite Prime. Parasite-Purge Chrono Schema, Temporal Resonance Disruptor, Part 2, successfully woven. Chronal Parasite Prime, level, takes moderate purifying damage, core resonance destabilized. The Parasite Prime shrieked, its tendrils recoiling. Lyra, exhausted but resolute, moved to the third point. This was the Chronal Energy Siphon, Part 3, designed to drain the Parasite Prime's raw temporal power. Attempting to weave Parasite-Purge Chrono Schema, Chronal Energy Siphon, Part 3. Required 30, Temporal Fragments, Unstable Minor, 250, Temporal Energy, 200 Focus, Weaving Time, 25 sec. The remaining temporal shredder tentacles, now desperate, unleashed a barrage of temporal energy blasts. Lyra was forced to use her Temporal Realm Shift, Level 1. Again, not just to materialize the tentacles, but to create a momentary shield, absorbing a devastating attack. She poured her last reserves into the weaving. With a final, glorious flash, the third schema activated, and the vast, writhing mass of the Parasite Prime visibly began to shrink, its power being drawn into the newly activated constructs. Parasite-Purge. Chrono Schema, Chronal Energy Siphon, Part 3. Successfully woven. Chronal Parasite Prime, level, takes major purifying damage, core temporal energy drained. The temporal shredder tentacles withered and dissolved into harmless temporal ash. The Parasite Prime was now a fraction of its former size, still pulsing with residual malice, but clearly weakened. Lyra, utterly depleted of temporal energy and focus, found the final central point identified by her Grand Chrono Schema. This was the Timeline Dissolution Array Part 4. Attempting to weave Parasite-Purge Chrono Schema, Timeline Dissolution Array Part 4. Required 50 temporal fragments, stable, unstable, 300 temporal energy, forcibly drawn, 250 focus, forcibly drawn. Weaving time, 30 sec. She had no temporal energy or focus, but the crucible, Chronos' heartbeat, thrummed in unison with her. Her architect's legacy, level 3, surged, drawing power directly from the city's reactivated temporal conduits, forcing temporal energy and focus into her. It was a desperate, all-consuming process. She was becoming the final conduit, sacrificing her very being to cleanse the parasite. The final schema formed, a dazzling constellation of interconnected temporal threads that pulsed with pure, purifying light. It slammed into the now shrunken Parasite Prime, Parasite-Purge Chrono Schema, Timeline Dissolution Array, Part 4, successfully woven. Chronal Parasite Prime, level, completely dissolved. Chronal Parasite threat to Chronos City neutralized. You have gained 5,000 XP. You have leveled up. Lyra is now level 12. Health increased by 60. Temporal energy increased by 50. Focus increased by 50. New passive skill. Chrono-Shifter's Zenith, level 1. You are now the foremost Chrono-Shifter of Chronos City. Your time abilities are inherently more powerful and efficient. You can permanently infuse forged constructs into the environment. Grants Chronos Guardian. New active skill. Grand Timeline Reclamation, level 1. Forge a permanent, large-scale purification or utility temporal construct on a designated area, integrating into Chronos City's temporal network. Temporal energy cost, extreme. Cooldown, 24 hours. Level 12. The Chronal Parasite Prime was gone, leaving behind only purified, temporal calm and a faint shimmering temporal residue. Lyra, drained to her very essence, collapsed. She had done it. She was now the Chrono-Shifter's Zenith, level 1, the permanent Chronos Guardian, capable of permanently altering the temporal environment with her constructs and creating grand Timeline Reclamation Arrays. She looked at her hands, no longer just glowing with temporary energy, but etched with permanent, subtle golden temporal threads, the mark of the Chrono-Shifter. She was no longer just Lyra the archivist. She was Lyra, the Chrono-Shifter, who had saved Chronos City and redefined the very concept of time manipulation. The city, her city, was safe, its future now waiting for her grand reclamation. As the temporal energies stabilized, a final, faint echo resonated through her. It was Finn's signature, now clear and strong. He was alive, out of the immediate danger, his previous warnings having been part of a grander temporal paradox that had unfolded as she acted. He was safe, somewhere in the stabilized timeline, waiting to be found. And Lyra, the Chrono-Shifter, knew she would find him. Her loop was complete, but her story had just begun.